Hey y'all, these two officers are way in over their head, bro. Whoever sent them here sent them on a mission for failure. Cause they definitely needed more backup than just them. Cause the dude who walks out the freaking door is like the size of Andre the Giant. And he comes out smiling, bro. You see how scared the cops are of him? We're about to see the cop literally lock him back inside his house. Like, why did y'all even break in? If y'all are just gonna lock him back in the house.
Get in here, get in here, get in here. I'm about to expose one of the biggest Masonic secrets that you ever will hear. Have you ever asked yourself, why does they have two crosses on their chest? Have you ever asked yourself why do they have two crosses on their chest? And the secret lies in the definition right here. Once you read the definition, I'm not going to read it, but now I'm about to show you one of the biggest Masonic secrets in the world. Boom! When you put, this is one cross, this is two cross, and when you put them together, you get a Masonic sign when you put them together. But it gets deeper, it gets deeper. This one right here is for the pastors. This one right here is for the higher ups. And when you put them together, they have a bond to fool the masses. This is how you take someone's land and make them docile. While you taking their gold, while you taking their resources, while you taking everything, including their dignity, and you use him right here that took the Masonic oath to help steal from the masses.
So I'm sure we've all heard about the WF conspiracy so far. And if you are not sure what I'm talking about, I'll go ahead and insert this clip. We all remember when WF was selling these cabinets. Everybody went crazy across social media. We had people on both sides of the fence saying that these were children. Some people saying that people just needed to get a life. But let me show y'all this. So I'm over here doing research, as I always do. Before I tell any information, I always do my research. And I stumble across a story that it seems like they're trying to bury. On September 8th of this year, a 14-year-old girl showed up to a hospital in Dallas, Texas, with her hands bound and her mouth gagged. She wasn't wearing any shoes. You could tell that she had been held somewhere for a period of time. I have blurred out this image only because I want to protect this minor. I'm not really sure why her picture was even posted in the first place. When the police arrived to the hospital to question the young girl about where she, been, where she came from, the young girl gave them an interesting story. To protect myself, because I do believe they are trying to bury this story. I haven't seen it on any major news outlets. I will call the company Bergmark. So the young girl goes on to explain how she and one of her good friends were inside of Bergmark shopping. She had to go to the back of the store while her friend went to another area of the store, and they were supposed to meet up at the registers. While she was shopping, a lady walked up to her and pushed one of these in her face and told her to smell this perfume. And the young girl, before she could protest, she did inhale whatever was on the strip, and she began to lose consciousness. But not before she got to see someone who she stated had on the Bergmark attire or vest, came and grabbed her and took her through the back of the Bergmark. She described how when she woke up, she was chained to other children inside of a dark basement. She then went on to describe how masked men came into the room and threw bags over each of the children's heads before they were transported via train to another location or another state. When they got the children to this second location, she stated that some things happened to her that I cannot say on TikTok, so I'll just say traumatizing. And then she was put on a live auction with other little children, y'all. Now, this is where it gets weird. The young girl is claiming that this company, Bergmark, who has a missing wall that everyone knows about when they walk into the store, there's a missing wall right there when you walk in. She's saying that they are using that wall as an auction list.
Behind every wall, every window, the world behind the world. we're smack in the middle. Angels and demons can't cross over onto our plane. So instead we get what I call half-breeds. The influence peddlers. They can only whisper in our ears, and a single word can give you courage or turn their favorite pleasure into your worst nightmare. Those with the demon's touch, like those part angel, living alongside us, they call it the balance. I call it hypocritical bullshit.
Nah, I think that y'all are not aware of certain shit.
And see,
I got abducted before by extraterrestrials.
What?
Do you believe that? Look me in my eyes.
What the fuck?
Look me in
No,
my eyes.
absolutely
Look
fucking
me in
not,
my
because you're
eyes.
still here on
Look
the
me in my
internet
eyes.
raising hell.
Look me
No.
in my eyes.
No.
And tell me I'm lying.
You're lying.
That's the problem. I'm aware of something you're not. We're gonna see though.
What's up with your tongue? Why you always do your tongue like this?
I don't know, part of my personality. I like to flick my tongue out. Part of my swag. Part of my micro expression. I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm aware of something on the I'm aware of shit.
So
that
tell me
the
what
average
happened
person's
when
not.
you were abducted. Before we move on.
I
to
told your
what's
story
next.
like 5 times already.
Okay, I haven't heard this particular story.
Okay, I'm
I'm sure my viewers haven't
I'm
heard
tell you right
it.
now.
Okay, tell me.
I was on a table, and my body was on the table,
Okay.
and I was on a ship, and it was all metal like a spoon, and I was looking down on my body, and my body was like chest down. I was looking at the back of my head, and there was some beings operating on my 33rd vertebrae, and it felt like it felt like when you take 2 wires and you touch them. And they kept going like that with my nerve. I don't know what it was. Don't have me get the line, but it was right here, and I could look all around me, but I couldn't look to the right. It was a being right here to the right, but it didn't look like near you. I don't know what the fuck it was,
Okay.
but it was whatever it was a masculine being, and it was talking to me telepathically, and they told me it was the captain of the ship. This is a true ass story, and they told me it was the captain of the ship, and I asked the being, like, it wouldn't identify itself though. When I asked specific questions like, where you from? It didn't answer. And I asked them, like, what you doing? What are you doing to my body? And it was like, we fixing you. And the being asked me for my permission. I gave it my permission. And then it kept touching, it kept going like this with my spine. And I kept feeling my pain increase. And I remember I was just gritting my teeth like, Ugh. And it was, they say, they were strengthening my nervous system so that I could channel. And I believe that, because I do channel. But it was clicking me like this. And I remember the pain was increasing, and the being kept communicating with me like, are you okay? Can we keep going? I kept saying, yeah, I could take it. And I was trying to be tough and take the pain. I remember the pain got so excruciating, I just came back to my body, and it ain't brought me back.
Do you believe that maybe you probably
Hell no, that wasn't.
had a hallucination due to all the books you were overloading your mind with?
This one part of them, the ruling part, took over and became involved in the politics and in the religion, and started controlling through these means at that point in time. Reptilian that come from another dimension, they materialize from out of another dimension and are present at rituals, and they are so powerful, and their presence is there's such an evilness about them, and they want out of this other dimension. Old ones are called out, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons, and they are what Christianity would have called the demons.
Is this symbolism of the abyss anything to do with the fact that these reptilian demons of another dimension are somehow locked in a time-space prison, and they can't get out, and they can only get out when they're brought out in that way?
Yes, they want out of that dimension. They have been thrown into that dimension, and they can't leave that dimension. And that's actually what the abyss is about, is being in a different dimension. It's like something to do with the fourth dimension.
So take us through one of these rituals that you conducted at the highest level of this global brotherhood. What would happen?
They have these children that they're kidnapping and bringing in from other countries, and no one misses them because these are third world countries. And children, they have the most energy, the purest energy, they're the highest form of sacrifice. They are used as actual blood sacrifices during these rituals because of, again, reptilians needing their blood. The blood will be gathered in a goblet and it will be dispersed among the reptilians.
Are these rituals rare? I mean, how many are there that, say, go on a year? I mean, we talk hundreds of thousands of
there are things happening every month of the year.
What happens on the night of Halloween?
That night is about the worship and homage to Satan, the great deceiver Satan, on that night, on Halloween, at this church.
You've conducted them in Europe and the United States. Can we start with the United States?
Yes, I have seen at rituals, I have seen George Bush, I have seen Madeleine Albright, I have seen Henry Kissinger, I have seen Ronald Reagan, and I have also, by the way, seen his wife, Nancy Reagan. I have seen Hillary Clinton before I knew she was Hillary Clinton. At the time, at these rituals, she is involved. The other people that I have named, and I've seen shapeshift into reptilians. J. Rockefeller, and he shapeshifts. These people seem to all be connected to the Illuminati. Gerald Ford, I have seen shapeshift. Dr. Joseph Mengele, who took me around to these rituals a lot of the time, was also a shapeshifter. There are people in the European countries that I've seen shapeshift.
Or they were using anti-gravity. Did you know in 1924, a scientist changed mercury into gold? His name was Professor Hontaro Nagioka. In his experiments, he took a high-tension mercury vapor lamp and he turned it into pure gold. He achieved this by feeding it thousands of volts of electricity for hours and hours. And if you're into alchemy, this is the quest for the Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, just like Harry Potter. What's weird is, the Greek god of Mercury has a staff that looks like an electrical current. Whenever I think of gold in ancient times, I think of the Mayans, because they had a ton of gold. What's even weirder, in 2015, they found a giant pool of mercury beneath the pyramid of the feathered serpent. There's also a theory, if you spin mercury in a gyroscopic device, it'll create an anti-gravity effect.
Why do archaeologists keep finding giant pools of mercury beneath ancient pyramids? Everywhere from Egypt, Mexico, and China. If you dig under an ancient pyramid, you typically find a giant pool of mercury, sometimes rivers of mercury. Mercury has endless applications in the field of energy production. The dendrolites in Egypt seem to be showing what's called a mercury arc rectifier. Here we see a recreation of the dendrolites. Within the light, you even see the serpentine movement of the ionized plasma. So let's say they did have a mercury arc rectifier in ancient Egypt. What could they possibly be using using it for. Did you know in the early 1900s they already had electric vehicles? This was before the petroleum industry took over everything. Some of these electric vehicles could go 100 miles on a single charge. And what do we see right here? Wait for it, there. That would be a mercury arc rectifier. I'm becoming more and more convinced every day the ancients had electricity.
This rock supposedly contains red mercury inside of it, and it was found in Egypt, and it can do strange things. This, for example, is what the man is going to experiment right now with a water bottle. When he approaches the rock, see what happens. Now he's going to experiment with the bottle of Coca-Cola, and this is what happens. Check this out. Now, red mercury is supposedly a substance that does not exist. It was technically used in the 40s to produce atomic bombs or something like that. Check this out. However, it was never proved that it existed. There's a lot to know about red mercury. There's a lot of videos going on, and if you'd like to know more, leave a like for part.
Perhaps this explains the caverns full of mercury found beneath many pyramids.
This is definite proof that advanced ancient civilizations did exist. Number 1, the Hathor Temple in Egypt, where there is a carving known as the Dendera, which is a carving of a snake in a bottle and a jet pillar that perfectly resembles the light sources we use today. The snake in the bottle resembling a wire inside of a bulb, and the jet pillar resembling a box that acts as a receiver for this electrical energy. Extremely similar to modern electric technology. Number 2, the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent in Teotihuacan. During a dig in 2003, an archaeologist found something very strange at this pyramid. He discovered a perfectly cylindrical shaft leading to underground passages beneath the pyramid, where they found these: a strange jade crystal mask, crystal eyes, and large quantities of liquid mercury, an extremely rare conductive element that we use in electronics and in vehicles, which is the same exact thing that 5,000-year-old Sanskrit texts say the gods used for their flying vehicles. Basically fuel for their flying craft known as vimanas. Keep in mind, this temple is made to honor a feathered serpent god which came down from the sky. Number 3, the Mayan astronaut. On the tombstone of the Mayan king known as Pakal, which is under his pyramid, is inscribed a date which is older than the oldest Mayan city, which is Palenque, and obviously older than the pyramid itself. But the strangest part about it is the machine that is depicted on the tombstone, which Pakal is driving. He's driving with his 2 hands. His nose is connected to a wire as it was somehow giving him oxygen, and the fire coming out of the bottom of the ship. You're seeing this too, right? Same ship, different places, different gods, different faces. What the fuck is going on?
So in Africa, Congo to be exact, they killed a 24-foot crocodile in 2005 in the swamp. The swamp is the size of Florida. Now what if I told you there's a such thing as a 50-foot crocodile? You probably wouldn't believe me, right? Well, I encourage you to have an open mind and play this video, and then tell me your thoughts down below.
The biggest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa. It's called the Lakwala Swamp. That swamp is huge. Most Americans don't appreciate the size of Africa. Here's what Africa looks like next to the entire United States. Africa's gigantic, okay? That swamp is the same size as the state of Florida, 55,000 square miles. That swamp is huge. Did you know that swamp today is 80% unexplored? In 1885, Congo in Africa was taken over by Belgium, and it was called the Belgian Congo for many, many years. In 1960, the communists liberated them. You know, the communists liberate countries. They kill everybody. Okay, you're free now. Yeah, anyway. There were reports in that swamp from the 1700s when the missionaries went in there and said, man, there are dinosaurs still living in that swamp. Dinosaurs still alive? 1910, New York Herald ran an article about dinosaurs still living in Africa's swamps. Here's the Saturday Evening Post, 1948. There could be dinosaurs still alive in Africa. A big game hunter named Mr. Gobbler returned from a trip to Angola. He announced to the Cape Town newspaper, the Cape Argus, that there was an animal of large dimensions, the description of which could only fit a dinosaur. The natives call it Chippequi. In Central African Republic, they call it Nguri. Roy Mackal went there in 1980 on an expedition. He spent $250,000. As he traveled around the swamp, the natives talked about this animal called Mahamba. He said, what's that? And they showed him a crocodile. Oh yeah, that's the Mahamba right there, Mahamba. He said, how big does it get? They pasted off on the sandbar, 50 feet long. And everybody says, no, crocodiles, they never get past about 17 feet. Oh, I don't think that's correct. Earlier in the summer of 2005, they killed a 24-foot crocodile in that swamp. Of course, the natives will say, oh, you should see the big ones. The natives also talk about an animal they call Mokele Mbembe. Well, if you show them the picture of an apatosaurus, they'll say, yep, that's it, Mokele Mbembe. The natives claim these animals live underwater. They're very rare. Of course, they're in the swamp in Africa, and nobody goes out at night anyway, and there's no lights over there at night. But the animals are seen mostly early morning or late in the evening when they come out, and their favorite plant is the Malombo plant.
For many years, I mean like over a decade, I've been concerned and looking into the concept of smart cities and what does it mean. Anytime I hear that terminology, especially locally, it sends chills down my spine because I know now, after my years and years of research, exactly what this stuff is. Well, 2 or 3 days ago, I was reading through the Gateway Pundit, and I found an article, and here's the title of the article: Smart cities worldwide are being converted into open-air concentration camps, says ex-Silicon Valley engineer turned whistleblower. So I thought, I mean, this is barking right up my tree here. So I read further, and it says, Aman Jabi is a native of India and an engineer who worked in Silicon Valley for 25 years. He's a co-inventor of 2 cell phone camera apps. He immigrated to the United States in 1988 because he admired America's culture of liberty and ingenuity. And I can understand why. Back in 1988, we were full of liberty and ingenuity. Of course, you look around today, I don't know if that same guy would have still moved here based on what's going on today in Biden's America, but let's move on. Jabi now lives in Big Fort, Montana, and has become, in my opinion, one of the most important whistleblowers and voices of warning about the coming beast system. And yeah, I didn't stutter. It's the beast system. We're definitely, maybe we're not totally in it right now, but we're certainly heading that direction. Some of the most advanced elements of this infrastructure, as Jabi points out, are in states like Florida and Georgia and other red states. So even though you may be in a red state and you think, oh yeah, I've got all conservatives and Republicans in my state, so they'll put a stop to this. Many states like Florida, Georgia, and other red states have not put a stop to it. In fact, Texas is another one. A couple of the biggest smart cities there are Dallas and Austin, Texas. So something to consider. If you live down in that area, just know you're being monitored, and it's going to continue to get more and more invasive as time goes on. So let's continue on. The way to defeat this system is so simple and yet so difficult. One thing I can promise you is that we will never be able to vote our way out of it, because the same people who are laying the infrastructure for smart cities worldwide are in control of these systems internationally. So I mean, that's huge. That's saying a lot. That's to me a strike against the idea of a one world government. All we have to do is say no, reject the tools of our enslavement that are offered on a shiny silver platter that looks so enticing. We must recognize that these are the very same tools and products that make our busy 21st century lives so convenient, so efficient, and so entertaining. This is how the globalists intend on breaking the backs of free Americans. They will do it through our finances, through the healthcare system, and through the entertainment system. I think we've seen a lot of that, especially in the last few years. Digital ID cards disguised as health passports or smart health cards will be required to work a job, to access the internet, and coming digital bank accounts or digital wallets. The convergence of all these systems will make sure, in the words of the UN Agenda 2030, no person gets left behind. When I hear that, and UN, this comes straight from the UN, no person gets left behind. What that means, that's threatening to me as a person that values liberty and individual sovereignty and individual liberty and things like that. That's a threat to guys like me. By the time most people wake up and see that they have walked into a trap, it will be too late. They will have all of your data. They will know everything about you, your strengths, your weaknesses, and your vulnerabilities. What Choppy is describing in the above video is extremely invasive technology being set up in smart cities, from license plate readers to smart lights and smart poles to smart cars and smart neighborhoods, smart homes and smart appliances, all connected to 5G and wirelessly communicating with each other. And again, we've walked ourselves right into this trap in the name of convenience, and I think that's one of the things he does a great job of pointing this out in this article. Continuing on. If you pay attention, you will see hundreds of these LED light poles lining the streets and highways. In many cases, they are retrofitted with surveillance cameras and speakers for listening. Chavi also talks about drone charging stations being set up and how drones might be weaponized against the citizens. I don't know if you caught it or not, but like last week, there were a whole bunch of Chinese drones caught flying over Washington, D.C. I mean, that's a national security issue. I don't know how the commie-in-chief is going to handle it or his people, but they probably won't do anything. All of this weaponized infrastructure is being installed with federal money, your tax dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars tucked into Joe Biden's infrastructure bill, as well as his Inflation Reduction Act bill, both of which were passed by Congress with help from Republicans. So we can't even count on the Republicans to hold the line. They talk the big talk when they're running, but then when they get in there, they vote for all this stuff that's basically selling our kids down the river, and us too. City and county leaders are fools for the federal grants. They typically don't even question what they're buying into with someone else's money. To them, it's just free money to invest in local infrastructure. I mean, and that's why it's important for us to get involved on a local level, is to be able to get out in front of this stuff. And many of these city and county leaders have no idea. And when you start saying things, that's one of the problems with the way the media is structured right now. If you question the mainstream media, or if you question the Agenda 2030, then they're going to call you a tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorist. And on the other side of their mouth, they'll be saying how wonderful the Agenda 2030 is going to be when they implement it. It's just a complete bizarro world. So let's get into some examples here of what's going on in these smart cities. Number one, our streets are spying on us. Many of these LED smart lights are outfitted with what's called a puke ray, and it's P-U-K-E, like, vomiting, puke ray technology, which can be weaponized and used to incapacitate humans. This is a military technology being applied in our cities for potential use against civilians, courtesy of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. All major intersections in smart cities have digital surveillance cameras. Pay attention to the interstate highways, which are also now being outfitted with this technology. These cameras will be capable of logging the license plates of every car that passes by in real time. And thanks to 5G, they'll be able to upload it immediately and track people down. An inch or two. I mean, where before the towers were far enough apart, they couldn't track you as accurately. Well, now they'll have, real time, very, very precise tracking capabilities. Cameras and listening devices are going up everywhere in large, medium, and even smaller cities. Our cell phones are spying on us. Your cell phone is listening to you as well. And many of the newest phones are capable of tracking your eye movement on the screen. I mean, that is just scary. They're listening in. They're watching, they're analyzing, they're learning. Then it repeats the process, Choppy said. It's an open concentration camp for surveillance. And all of this technology is not for our safety and security as advertised. It's to grab data and to use it to change your behavior. meaning the data will be used to enforce the coming social credit score system on all Americans and free people everywhere. I know not too long ago when you mentioned the words, social credit score, people would be like, no, that's just in China. That'll never happen here. We're the land of the free, the home of the brave, right? Well, then they came out with this backdoor way of doing it to our corporations called ESGs. Look it up sometime. It's scary. It's part of the reason we're having such energy problems with the prices of gasoline and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. Our appliances are spying on us. If you have one of the newer models of refrigerators that digitally tracks your fridge's inventory, all that data is being logged for future use against you. Eating too much meat and dairy, your social credit score just got lower a notch because the globalists don't like us eating meat. It's not sustainable in their vision for the world. Of course, they'll eat all the meat they want. Don't worry about Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates and all the other rich elites. They'll be able to eat all the meat they want. You will have to eat Z-bugs. Our cars are spying on us. By 2025, Javi said every new car will have a minimum of 16 cameras, all digitally connected and feeding information via the internet and 5G. Driving too much outside of your home base, adding unnecessarily to your carbon footprint, that is a waste of gasoline, and your social credit score just ticked down another notch. Our banks are spying on us. It's already been confirmed earlier this year that major banks and credit card companies track your purchases of guns and ammunition, and all of the big banks are experimenting with a voluntary carbon tracker app that notifies you of a carbon footprint, of your carbon footprint. This is just a warm-up for when they launch the new digital money, when keeping track of your carbon output no longer falls under the voluntary mode. In other words, they're going to start forcing you to do stuff because they'll have control of your purse strings. That's very dangerous. Our digital thermostats are spying on us. Remember how that worked out in Colorado this summer when people enrolled in a voluntary temperature monitoring program suddenly lost all control over their home's thermostats? The goal is to digitally map all things living and non-living. Even every tree and bush in nature will have a digital ID because once you catalog them and map them, you can now track them and control them. The infrastructure for a lockdown police state is already in place. Remember the COVID lockdowns? They can do it again, and they're really wanting to do that again, except for this time around it may be because of global warming or climate change or whatever they want to call it that day. There are 1 billion digital surveillance cameras connected to the internet worldwide, and 50 million of them are in the U.S. That's more per capita than they have in China, according to Javi. So, that should blow your mind right there. They're tracking us more already than they do in China. And, if you've seen the social credit score stuff that they've got going on over there, it's nightmare Orwellian stuff. It's just, you can't make it up. The difference is that in China, the people know they are being watched 24/7, and they are compliant because they know there will be penalties for violating the rules. They know they are slaves, and they accept it. So that's the only real difference is they know they're slaves, we don't. In the U.S., they're already doing this surveillance, Javi says. The only difference is they haven't told us yet. We're already in the same global system of surveillance. Some call it the Internet of Eyes, but...
I took this video after I got my water-powered car back from the government.
I got my water-powered car back. The only thing is that it's missing a couple items that were confiscated by the government. One of them being the tank that holds all of the water. They were nice enough to leave my amplifier that I had in here, and they left some hose. Other than that, the whole tank, everything is all gone. All of the lines that I had running underneath of the car, all stripped, completely gone. Oh yeah, they also took the box where everything happens.
We got a late night emergency alert, breaking news on the World War III front for you tonight. A story that is developing in St. Petersburg, Russia. A sub-district in St. Petersburg is completely blacked out. 100,000 people are without power, and because there's no power to the water pumps, so the pumps can't pump water. Apparently, this is what witnesses are saying now. No power, no water for 100,000 people in St. Petersburg. Now, power outages happen, but what's more interesting is what the eyewitnesses claim happened about half an hour before this event occurred. They claim that they seen flashes in the sky and accompanied by loud explosions. And then about a half an hour later, there's conflicting reports. Some say 15 minutes, some say an hour. After those explosions and flashes in the sky, there was this massive power outage in and around St. Petersburg. Elon Musk has effectively relinquished control of Starlink to the U.S. military-industrial complex. That same service that Elon was concerned would trigger nuclear Armageddon a year ago is now fully in the hands of the U.S. military, and effectively then in the hands of the Ukrainian military to target wherever they please. Apparently, and I don't know all the technicals behind this, apparently it allows guidance systems to navigate deep inside of Russian territory at will, at the flick of a switch. Right now, Starlink is not operational in Russian territory. They're not allowed to utilize it in Russian territory. And this is something to do with the U.S. government, okay? And this is why Elon said, if the U.S. government asked me for permission, I would have probably said yes. But because Ukraine asked me, and because they're not the ones in charge, I said no. Now, apparently, he was very eager to step away from the service after refusing to help Kiev attack a Russian naval fleet in Crimea over concerns of nuclear Armageddon.
Thanks, Bernard. Now, finally for now, a mysterious hole on a beach has caused a stir in North Dublin. A local astronomy enthusiast is hoping the crater in Portmarnock could be the aftermath of a cosmic event.
Mysterious crater that looks out of this world. But is it? The unusual hole on Portmarnock Beach stopped physics enthusiast Dave Kennedy in his tracks yesterday, and he's certain the small but heavy rock inside it came from up above.
As you can tell by here, there's a scorch mark on this side here, so that would have been at the angle that it came down at. And it is weighty. I'm not sure if it's composition.
Mars, you can find destroyed structures everywhere. You can find remnants of ancient civilizations and cities. Venus as well, we've discovered what appear to be structures, massive structures. All of these, by the way, have pyramids. Pyramids on our moon, pyramids on Mercury, pyramids on Venus, all the way across the whole solar system. There were two pyramid wars. These wars were always over the same thing: control of humans, control of land, and control of these tablets of destiny. They have the genetic codes on them, they have star maps in them, and it's claimed whoever has them has control over the earth.
America, wake up, my sleeping beauty. So beautiful as you lie there as a princess who rests in peace, knowing that her guard will keep her safe. There is danger lurking to take you away.
Good morning, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. 27th September. The video I just showed you was just given to me. The Navy, we'll say accidentally, flew a flag upside down. And if you're a veteran, you know what that means. This seems like a call to action to me. Keep your head on a swivel. Stay vigilant. And if you don't have training yet, you better get moving. Contact me via my DM. It's time to start, guys. If you're not already training, it's time to start. Hit me up.